Thank you. So, good afternoon. Welcome. I'm here to talk about a new project that we're in the process of implementing. I'm Ralph Christ, as she said, Program Director in Linux Technology Center. If you'd like more details, we only have like 10 minutes here. If you want more details about what we're doing and/or would like to collaborate with us, participate, find out when this thing's available, or be notified, get with me after the talk, and we'll set you up. All right. So a few months ago, we were out talking to a lot of OpenPOWER customers and trying to understand what their requirements were and all that. And here was the key requirements that we were hearing from the customers. One, they wanted to be running the latest and greatest OpenPOWER servers and/or I/O, with the features and stuff as soon as it's available. They really wanted to get on it to get the price performance and all the gadgets and stuff like that. Another key requirement was they wanted to run both bare metal and/or virtualized environment, depending on what the workloads and the situation was. So that was another one. Interesting, they also wanted to, a lot of them wanted to have their own stack from top to bottom, hardware all the way up. They wanted it all their own. They didn't want to, purchase something from IBM or some other vendor. And that included the distribution as well. They wanted a stable Linux distribution. Many are either building their own private, like I said. Several of them are derivatives, CentOS or other things out there, Debian or not Debian, but yeah, Debian. And they're also interested in Little Endian if they're going into a place where they already have x86. So these were the requirements. And as you see at the bottom, there's a couple of requirements on here that I spoke about that is sort of like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And that would be, want the latest and greatest hardware, but I want a stable operating system. And as you all know, developers, when you have to replace the kernel and a lot of different things to get to the latest, greatest server, having the old operating system stable on it can, just isn't going to happen because time has moved on. So anyway, we put our little cap on, try to figure out what we could come up with to solve this. And essentially what we're doing is have a new project, OpenPOWER HostOS/KVM repository. And so we thought of a lot of different solutions, but this was the one that we thought would help everybody out. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use HostOS as an abstraction layer that allows you to then run a stable operating system on it. So think of it as a HAL, but you could call it a host OS abstraction layer as well to get the HAL from that way. So this way you could get the latest and greatest hardware and run your stable operating system. And I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. At the same time, because people wanted to build their own distros and stuff like that, they wanted to get to the latest and greatest technology as soon as possible. We said, well, let's take what we do inside of IBM. We have a product in IBM called Linux on Power KVM, a virtualization platform for KVM. And let's take it all and put it out into the community in repositories. And then also let's make sure when it's open out there, we then have some way to collaborate with our partners and people that are interested. So here's sort of the notion of the host OS as an abstraction layer. So today with Power 8 or Power 8 Plus, whatever that's coming, essentially on top of firmware, whether it's be OpenBMC, BMC, pick your favorite firmware wherever, we put this host OS or HAL. So essentially a virtualization layer, has the latest and greatest kernel in it, QEMU, libvirt, all that. So it understands the hardware below it. And then on top of it, you run an existing distribution of some flavor. And that's how you get your stable operating system. So instead of virtualizing it, you just create one large guest that consumes all the hardware. So use all the hardware with the one guest, and you have this shim, if you will, or abstraction layer that's going to get you to the new hardware. So then you go across time, as you can see, brand new hardware, whether it be Power 8 Plus or Power 9 or whatever, this layer here needs to have a new kernel to understand how to talk to the firmware, how to boot up, all the new I/O features, functions, and all that. And you don't have to go rip up the kernel in the existing stable operating system. So this will have the old stable kernel in it, running on a brand new kernel that we've tested, validated. It works from here down, and that's what you'll get. So the actual high-level implementation of this thing is IBM. We are going to seed this repository from the work we do on our product that we actually have been putting out there for at least a year now. We're on version 3.1. The end of the year's version 3.11 is coming out. So we're going to seed these repositories from all the libraries that we have internal to IBM today for doing our own product. We're going to put them all out there in GitHub. So it'll have the latest and greatest kernel, the kernel that we're building our next product on, and it'll know of all the hardware up to that point, support that. QEMU repository, libvirt repository. So that's all the sources there. But having all the source, we've always had the source out there, but it's always been upstream, and the challenge for people is figuring out how to get it, what's all the latest patches, the right levels, and all that to make something that's coherent. So all the source will be in the one place where you can get it. Second thing that's key is we'll have build scripts such that the developer can go and pick up the host OS. They can get the build stuff and build it with their choice of distro. So there'll be build scripts. So if you want to build host OS for Fedora, a Debian, CentOS, or whatever, there'll be a build script to allow you to build this thing that I'm talking about. And then another set of repositories that'll have a validation suite that you can run against what you built to make sure what you built runs and will get the job done. So we're going to use the same exact code, the same build scripts, same source, same everything for our own product. Our next product, we're currently out there is 3.1. Our next version is 3.11 later in the year. It'll be built from these repositories. It'll have all the normal open source guidelines. We'll have maintainers for each of the repositories, et cetera. We welcome people's input, feedback, patches, or whatever. We'll have the same rules, though. You need to push it upstream first, get it community accepted. If it is, we'll take it into the repository. If you need help getting it pushed upstream with something cool and you need our help, we'd be glad to do that as well. But that's essentially the implementation at the highest level. Like I said, the timeline, we plan to seed the libraries, get it all set up in beta form by July of this year. It just happens to coincide when that's when we're going to beta our 3.11. So we'll by then have run through some mechanics, make sure it builds, runs, it's tested, it's good, and then it'll be out there. We don't actually GA our product 3.1 until November of this year, and that's when we're going to officially then say, okay, it's GA. There's a GA version of this thing out there, and then from that we'll move on, to the next version of this host OS, which is called 4.1, and that's the one that's going to support all the latest and greatest Power 9 features, functions, and stuff that we'll be working on. And so the beauty as well, as we're building this thing, you'll actually be able to see in one location all the enablement that we're putting into the kernel for power, for OpenPOWER for the P9 kernel and stuff. That all the work we're doing, and we'll welcome anybody's input on that as well, or for different IOs and this, that, and the other thing. So that's the gist of it. So the key, like I said, is a new OpenPOWER repository. It's going to help speed the time to market for those who are building their own private distros. It wouldn't surprise me, or it would be good as well if even distro partners such as Canonical or Red Hat and those sorts of folks as well, we're going to be encouraging them to go pick up these sources from there as well, versus trying to figure out where it's at upstream. So like I said, a new collaboration model to let you work with us real time as we're moving down the road to the latest and greatest OpenPOWER processors and systems. We're also hoping that, you know, as we go here, you know, Canonical has a version of KVM in their product. Red Hat has something called Rev. We have one. Other people are going to have one. We're hoping that if everybody, again, works out of this set of repositories, that we don't see any divergences as well relative to the hypervisor level. So it's also a great idea for sharing and leveraging ideas. So anyway, and also, you know, like I said, the key for that inspiration for this was just to provide some abstraction layer, so allow people that need to support the applications on an old operating system run on the latest and greatest new hardware servers with and I/O with, this, like I said, the stable operating system. So with that, I thank you. I'll be at the back. Anybody interested in collaborating with us, or if you want to be on an email or something, or that when we make this thing available in July, so that you remember to go out and look at it, please get with me, and I'll be happy to get in contact with you. Thank you.